Good morning, everyone. So, thank you for joining me here. So, I am Abhishek. I am the Chief of Tech at CSC E-Governance, which is a Ministry of IT body, the Govt of India. It's a project. It was a project which was started in the year 2006, and are you able to see my AV? Cool. So I joined the CSC project 7 years back, and before that, I used to work for the Aadhaar project, which is the world's largest digital identity biometric database set, digital ID project of the world. And I was part of the core tech team that built the Aadhaar system in India. So post my Aadhaar days, in 2015, I joined the CSC project, which was more aimed at bringing all these digital benefits and services to the last mile of the country. And so I'm sure a lot of people would not know, have a great idea about India, but I'll definitely tell you something that's more relevant. So it makes a sense or a backdrop of my talk today. So India has got a population of like 1.38. It's among the most largest populated countries of the world. And the geography is equally well divided across the urban and a rural setup. So we have almost 34% of the people living in the urban areas, and the remaining majority portion going down to the rural locations. And if you see in the setup of the country or the city size, it's like 52 metropolitan cities, and then again we have some 8,000, 7,000 tier 2 towns and tier 3 cities, towns. And then we have almost 679,000 villages, where the majority of the population, which is almost covering 65%, live down there in the rural locations. So the CSC project originated with the ideology that anybody as a citizen would require government services, right? So, and they would need basic welfare programs, access to welfare programs, like you would require a birth certificate or maybe an ID card or something like that. And for that, you need to travel to a very, very long distance to avail that. And then again, the government setup in the country was very complex, and you need to travel, and then again, multiple visits to the same government office, same location, to avail basic amenities. So the whole idea was this project was to bring down this to and fro movement of the citizens and bring about and set up a kiosk at the remotest location of the country, so that as a citizen, you are able to get facilitated easily and just with the help of your neighborhood shop. So that you don't need to walk down such a long distance. You can just walk into your neighborhood shop and ask and apply for any of the welfare program or the government services that is available in a digital format in the country. So likewise, I think India started its journey on the e-governance more in the year 2000, 2001, I think, when this whole movement has started. And a lot of services which were basically on paper form started getting converted into a digital format. So if you talk about the present state of affairs in the country, we have this population of almost 1.38, of which almost we see approximately 1 billion mobile phones today as on date, and which is the prosperity of the region, that the telecom services are available in the remotest location, as well as we also see that the banking participation. So probably there's a movement called JAM. It is a bank account and your digital ID and a mobile connection, which enables you to be digitally empowered, and you can avail or get onto the best of yourself as an individual or as a citizen who should be being avail the services in a the most modern format that is available of now. So I'll talk about the common service centers. So the common service centers, it was a project which started in the year 2006. The ideology of setting up those kiosks, which I was talking about, and the whole idea was that it was more of a capacity building project at that point of time, that we should be identifying individuals, people across the country, and get them onto the system, train them out, help them out, and so that they can become a part of the network and operate these physical kiosks, so that people, citizens who can walk into these centers can avail these services And the kiosk agents, or the agents, we call them the village level entrepreneurs, can deliver such services. And again, it creates a livelihood mechanism for them. So for every transaction they do, they earn revenues, and that revenues is the source of livelihood or the income for them. And as a date when I started or joined the CSC project in the year 2015, so we had somewhere like 100,000 kiosks spread across the country. However, going forward to as on date, I have almost like we see 540,000 such centers, and catering to almost like a 30 million people, citizens every on a day-to-day basis. And the number of total transactions that they're doing is also like multiplied. I'd say you can see that we're doing somewhere like 20 million transactions a year, to reaching like almost like 400 million transactions, like serving so many citizens, not only with this commercial or financial transactions, but a lot of other allied services, like giving them access to like application forms, submitting your application for a passport application, for a driving license, and all these this format or these services that we talk about, we bring them on together onto a digital format, which is a digital portal, and a host of allied mobile apps and services which bring together all this application set together. And we proudly, very proudly run all these stack and the application that I talk about on CloudStack based infrastructure. So as I said, I joined the program in 2015, and in the year 15, we envisaged that we're going to cater to such a large population with so many services, and the number of the portfolio of services was also ever growing. Like I think that when I joined, it was somewhere like 200, and today it's more than 1,500 different kinds of services which is available on the platform. So coming to that number, we envisage that we're going to have a lot of agility on the infrastructure, a lot of pressure, and have this ability to deliver services on time. And then at the same point of time, we had this complications of serving remote locations where the internet connection would not be so good. So we had to design such an infrastructure which would be fairly successful and should also be leveraged accordingly. And then we had this choice of building a platform which should not be so costly on the budget. I mean, it should not be a bomb on the budget, and at the same time, we should build a decent compute, which should help us bring the kind of services and that we have envisaged that point of time. And I was sure that going forward for a period of another 5 or 7 years, we're going to see a lot of change, a lot of dynamic changing into the system in terms of new kind of service demands. And obviously, since when we started, it was more of a desktop-based environment and desktop applications with physical computers, printers, and all. And now all these things changing to mobile devices. Even those kiosk people, they are now traveling across the village rather than doing a shop where or kiosk where a citizen walks in. They're also going home to the individual citizens' home to deliver services. For many of the times, like for the old age pensions, where the old age guys are not able to come out of their homes, so they would go and visit down to their houses and deliver the services. And on all this format, you require bandwidth and you require the applications to work in a streamlined manner. So we thought that when we started building this up, we should be like we were actually, I'm actually a more focused application architect, and infrastructure is just a byproduct for me to build all this platform and these services that I'm doing. So we have to be very sure of what we're going to build. So we worked upon a lot of cloud platforms, and we evaluated most of them. And I thought that the CloudStack was the most easiest one that could help me do what we were trying to. And we started off with a lot of iterations. We did almost like 100, 150 iterations. And we started with a bare minimum of 10 servers in the first time, and with 2 management nodes and 10 host machines, where we bifurcated them into 6 compute and 4 storage. And that is how we started our journey in the year 2015-16. And since then, today, we are running almost like 80, 90 machines spread across 2 different locations. I'll just come to that one. Yeah, so my infrastructure is today spread across 2 different locations. So as a primary objective of having a DR and a disaster recovery site and a main site. So, and probably whatever we run, also since we do a lot of financial transactions, banking applications and services, so we are also highly regulated by the central bodies and the other statutory bodies who have operating rules in the country. So we have to like make sure that your servers are inside a cage, your data is localized, you are connected through private links. So we had all this complexity of connecting to multiple service providers, different government bodies through private links. And at the same time, we had to have all the security of the data that was residing there, as the talking about the authentication services that I was talking about, the digital ID based authentication for identification of individuals for delivery of services. So all these things, we combine them together, and we split this to two different zones, and we started a setup with we had some 62 dedicated machines as of now, with almost like 20K compute cycles, and the giga clock cycle with like somewhere like 20 terabytes of RAM. So it's a very small setup in terms of the CloudStack implementation world across. However, for my needs, this was sufficient at the point of time we were designing it. So yeah, we are growing, and we see that it's also becoming a bottleneck that we need to scale up further. So we expand further more, and we add more servers. And how we're going, and we had also built multiple storages. So initially we started off with the NFS storage nodes as the individual storage blocks, and then we got into, we implemented Ceph in our entire ecosystem as a clustered storage solution for us on the RBD protocol. And then again, for the security side, we did deploy a lot of firewalls and web application firewalls for the security compliance, ensuring that the threats, prevention of threats, and so that is how our system was like organized. And the kind of services that we run today is like covering a lot of domains. Basically, it was primarily starting from the government services, which used to like, you can say like government services like applying for a passport, there's a PAN card, a birth certificate, transport, election voter ID card. There's a card which is used so that you can use to vote. If you are eligible to vote, you need an election voter ID card. And then again, there were so since the government services were not sufficient enough for these entrepreneurs for their revenue side, so we also introduced a lot of business services encompassing all the domains that we can imagine, like starting from travel, banking, insurance, e-commerce, food stuff, agri-tech, and as a part of the overall portfolio of services that we have. We also are doing a lot of financial inclusion projects, and one of the key projects that we today is called, the product is called DigiPay. It's a financial inclusion project in the country, wherein, as I said, that India is a very large country where maximum population of it lives in the rural location, and financial inclusion is a major drive to get the people on board into a proper financial and formal banking system. So in the last, say, as I say, we see somewhere like 40% or 50% of the population were unbanked, and getting them into a formal banking system, and with all the benefits like old age pension and other pension schemes which are there, to be transferred digitally to the bank accounts of the individual, so that the benefits are directly passed, so which is called a direct benefit transfer. So all this platform were built, and we were part of the project which we built this DigiPay, so that the individuals can visit a location or such kiosk without the bank being there. Generally, a bank is almost like 40-50 kilometers far away from a nearest village. Sometimes they are in a village, otherwise they're very far from the village. So in case you want to cash out like $1,000, you would be spending another 200 or 300 to get that, to travel to that location and get that money out. So we got this application, which is called DigiPay. On the DigiPay application, it's a pure play banking application with minimum banking functions available on the application front end itself, which allows you to do a cash deposit, cash withdrawal, a mini statement of your bank account, as well as a bank statement. And we also have a digital onboarding for you on the banking system, which allows you to open a bank account instantly using your Aadhaar, which is the digital ID. So what you do is you just come to the kiosk, provide your Aadhaar number, enter your biometrics, and your digital KYC is transferred to the bank instantaneously, and your bank account is opened, which allows, and then the same account number is mapped to your benefit program, and the government, wherever they transfer funds or any kind of a benefit, that is directly transferred to your bank account. And then again, these agents who work with us, these village living entrepreneurs, will go around, move to the location. I mean, you can go to visit him and say that I want my cash. I want to withdraw some 500 rupees or 500 bucks from my bank account. So you just authenticate yourself, and the agent would hand over that 500 rupees to you, and your bank account is instantaneously debited, and the credit is passed on to the agent's bank account. So that this whole digital system works. How the front end part of it is our side, which we have built, and on the back end we connect bank to the national banking switch, which allows us to interact and to do all these financial transactions that I'm talking about. So we're also doing a lot of projects in healthcare, and some of the key ones are we do a telemedicine for the livestock, so which is gaining popularity today. And we also do a lot of remote diagnosis tests and all, which are not so robust. It's still picking up, but yeah, we're working around that in the project mode as well. And we have a very large program on the education side, which is a digital literacy program, which empowers to enable 600 million individuals across the country to get trained on digital literacy platforms and make them enable to handle and operate digital devices like a mobile phone or a laptop, so that they are aware of basic computing functions and they are able to make use such digital devices. Then also, yeah, during the pandemic, we did also put our hands into rural e-commerce, facilitating all individuals or farmers in the rural location sell their produce onto a digital platform through these the agent kiosk network, and then again order for stuff, and they can get it delivered through them. So these are some of the larger initiatives that we have been doing around. I have time. Yeah. So these are some of the major services that we've been doing there. And what is more important is when I joined this program, it looked to me like it's a capacity building training program where we used to call all these agents across into the board and train them that this is how you need to use the computer, this is how you need to teach the other guy. And then going forward, we see this thing being completely, we see a lot of digital transformation happening on this platform, and or the entire ecosystem rather, when we see a lot of people coming in and getting onto devices and doing delivering or availing services on a completely digital platform. So I think these are some of the numbers that we have been achieving in the last 5 years. I started my thing since 2016, so I put you. So we started in 2008, the 2015. We did somewhere like 40 million worth of transactions. But for that 40 million to almost $3 billion value of GMV is the journey that I have seen across this platform, and the user participation also is multiplied. So earlier, these are just financial transactions. We also do a lot of other transaction services, as I said, the authentication is one of the primary services for, if individual may visit for any or status check or something, he may be asked to identify himself digitally. So all such transactions and the non-financial transactions also cater. So probably we do somewhere 5 or 8, 9 million transactions on a daily basis altogether, and that's 365 days a yeah. So these are the numbers, and I think it's all I can say about talk about it. And there are specific questions I would really be happy to answer or share my experiences that we have. Yeah, please. So we can make it more interactive. I have. So I know we have a lot of people who are more cloud experts than me, but yeah, whatever we could do best, we have tried to do that, and that really works for us. And we're really proud that we run CloudStack.
Hi, I have a few questions. So
yeah,
you seem to be doing quite an impressive amount with less than 100 servers, as I understand it, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So can you share, if you can, a bit about the nature of your applications, like what languages or frameworks do you use for them?
Okay. So yeah, so the applications that we are running there are we primarily my stack is built on Java, PHP, Node, Node.js, and yeah, and on the data side we use MySQL and Redis for a lot of stuff. However, on the application, when we talk about the digital portals and all, it's a completely Vue-based, Vue.js-based application, and then the data side, it's all financial transactions. So we have tried to, like day one, we try to compress the size of data or make it more intelligent in terms of enable. Because it's a financial transaction, you need to do also get into ledgering, right? So ledgerings are very important, ledgers are very important. So when we started doing this by design, we thought that, yeah, we want to put a lot of information here and there and there. So we combined them together, made them simplified, so and signature based, so that we also have the trust of the records that we have at our end, and at the same time we also compress the data size that we store. So obviously, usually I see that the ledgers hold all the transactions today on the ledger database that we have, and it's not more than like 500 GBs also. So we try to compress, and that's historical since like 2015. I have got all the records there, and all the transactions that are done till date. So
Okay,
they're all, and they're less than 500 GBs.
Okay.
So that's kind of strategy we thought on terms of the data set design, which helped us achieve this number in terms of the storage utilization and also the compute. As I said, that CSC was a project which was more about capacity building. The ideology was to get more and more people get onto the program, and their participation was envisaged. So we had this approach of design completely frugal in nature to ensure that we invest less and do more.
That's excellent, thank you. And another question, which could be two questions. If you can share information about the kiosk side, how do you connect those with CloudStack, and what changes or new features in CloudStack would you like to see that would make this easier?
Yeah, so CloudStack, we use CloudStack only for our infrastructure services. I mean, these agents do not get access to it. It's a platform from where we fire our applications, and these guys connect over the internet. And we have applications either over the internet, or maybe some of them require a proxy because of some production level cases are there. They will say that you need to have a proxy-based connection. Some services are like that. So what we do is we allow them onto the internet, and we have uplinks and pretty good bandwidth around, and it's all offloaded, and we do a lot of PKIs, I mean your SSL or PKI based design to ensure the security, so that every data that either I mean you can say at rest, motion or transit, everything is encrypted end to end, so to ensure that there's no data breach and all at the transaction side. So that is how it's and on the cloud side, what we do is we have when we started, as I said, that on the application side we have tiered the applications into multi-levels, right? So maybe we run, when we are running APIs, we are running on PHPs, right? And we use PHP FPM fork over Nginx to ensure that we get that 10K threshold and all. And on the Vue side, it's the front end is all Vue.js and all, and we use a lot of local data store on the browser side. So the configuration data sets or any important value that is to be used during the application interaction, we don't get back to the server and pull it along. So what we do is we initially load it back down onto your browser so that you feel that it's like an application that's running on your local machine.
Thank you. When I saw the fact that you're running so many kiosks, it came to my mind the idea that you could perhaps, potentially, I'm not saying, I mean, it's somewhat vague, use some sort of edge zones in CloudStack to get closer to the kiosks or regional points.
I'll be happy to share what we are doing and what is the future that we are trying to work around now. So on the storage side, we did implement Ceph there, and we are adding up edge locations into our setup now. So like some of the locations are the content which is more like, as I said, that we do educational programs, right? And it's all about training the individuals, and they got a lot of video content. So we have been trying to do there's a project called a Wi-Fi program, where we try to convert a village into a Wi-Fi zone, and we're trying to set up small set-top boxes. Like, it's a small server, and it's called Magic Box, We have partnered with ZTV, that's one of the largest TV network in the country. So we have partnered with them, and what they help us is they got a media server which helps curate those content based down locally onto that device, and somebody accessing in the network can access from that locally even without the internet not being there. So we've been trying to work around this, and a lot of things are happening in this area. And altogether, and additionally to the setup that I have, so I said that I operate from 2 different locations. We have added 2 smaller sites, and both with CloudStack, to make them as edge for our facilitation. Yeah.
So, 2 questions actually. Do you have a picture of a kiosk? You're talking about a kiosk. How would I imagine this being somewhere?
Okay. So the kiosk, yeah, I can show you the picture.
Okay.
I'll have to search it out.
Yeah, cool.
And so generally, it's like a shop. It's like a departmental store, right? Or you visit it's a departmental store, but here you go into it's all self-service, right? But this one is assisted format of service delivery, and you walk in. It's like they will actually keep a table. The normal ones, they will have a table, a computer, and a printer, and a UPS to power them up and all. And this is smaller ones. The larger ones will look more like a bank to you, right? So they will have separate counters, one for travel services, one for insurance, one for the other banking, financial, somebody for general inquiry. And there are certain people who are even larger. So they've got floors. So on the ground floor, they do deliver financial transaction services. On the first floor, they've got classrooms and a digital classroom to teach trained people. So it's all, it depends on the individual. But however, if we talk about the income parity, the threshold or the margins that we talk about today. So we see like there would be like 100+ people who make more than 10 million a year, and working on this network itself. And however, to be on the lower side of the entire population, there would be like 50% who are decent enough for a living in a rural location. And yeah, there are some people who are still struggling, maybe 25,000 a year, 30, 50, 25 to 50,000 is a broader range where we see a lot of people there. But yeah, obviously, with when they get this experience of operations and all, they would definitely start making up.
Well, thanks. And one more question. By the end of 2022, the DOT sets IPv6 as mandatory for everything in India. How far is the implementation going on in CSC?
We are already running on IPv6.
Oh, great.
So the domains are there, but yeah, some of the public networks do work on IPv4.
Hi, Abhishek. Thank you. Great talks. Inspiring to see what you're doing. I've also got a couple of questions. First one is, have you got an end goal or objective? I mean, the growth rate looks amazing. Have you got percentage of the population you want to hit, you want to be enabled or something? And then actually the second question is, do you see the increases in connectivity and mobility ultimately meaning that just sort of direct app online access will overtake the need to actually have kiosks? Will technology sort of eat itself for you there?
Yeah, that's a great question, Giles. And I will answer this because I used to ask this question myself when I joined the program in 2015. Like how and why this assisted format should work. Because we are all able to. I never do or go to anybody. In fact, I never used my checkbook since the last 5-7 years. It's all on the mobile app. I'm able to do everything. But still, I see a lot of people walk around, and the number of people who are walking to these kiosks are only increasing. So it's like what I see is more of the mindset of the individuals there. And in the rural locations, what happens is some people, or the older guys, older folks, they would say that it's better to rely on somebody and ask this guy a question that, okay, you do it. If I do something, it might become a mistake and I may lose money. So this is one of the reasons. And then the other is that, okay, I have this show-off thing in India. Okay, I told this guy, yeah, this guy is doing my job. So this is one of the reasons why this assisted format works. But largely, it's still there, and I'm sure going forward in a period of span of say 5 years, we see a lot of penetration. As I say that the number of mobile connections in India has already reached 1 billion, and I'm sure this number of smartphone penetration is equally picking up. So we are definitely sure that a lot of people are going to come on board, and the newer generation, with so much usage of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube. These are the 4 most popular. YouTube and Facebook is more popular in India in the rural locations. They are as to the urban sections. If you see in the metros, people are mostly glued to Instagram, but in the rural India, it's mostly Facebook and YouTube. The largest users. So probably I'm sure that these guys are also going to come on board onto a self-based platform and switch maybe in a period of 4 or 5 years. But yeah, this whole ideology was of the government was to bring the government services. Maybe at that point of time, they might have not visioned out that all the government services could be made in that manner. But yeah, they double up as a lot of other services also, like for verification purpose, right? So for example, you apply for a passport, you actually have to be physically verified that you reside in this location and how long have you been residing. So all these comes together and it holds together. So probably, yeah, this is going to work for some time. And it is going to coexist. Gradually, it's going to coexist. Yeah, and as I say about the coverage, so they're altogether, there are like 679,000 villages in India, all, of which we are almost trying to reach to all of them. And right now we have, this is the active numbers. We got the people placed there, and we want to have active agents operating from all these locations, and the tier 2 and tier 3 cities is also. So the first thing that it brings down is that it also helps you cut the traffic from the government offices, right? So for example, like generally during the India is mostly into agriculture, so a lot of farm applications come into for crop insurance. So this traffic of crop insurance going to a government offices is diverted to all these kiosks. So this is a huge distribution, and it's a very large coverage. It covers like somewhere like 20 crore farmers every year. So 20 would be 200 million, I guess. So
Thank
that
you.
means, so we need to reach, I think that is the number that we are intending to reach.
Any more questions?
Any more
No? Sorry? Oh, thank you, Steve.
So I hope no more questions.
No, there are. There's some online questions. Sorry,
Okay.
Abhishek.
Hi, yeah, so we've got a few questions coming from the online viewers. First question, what is the size of your team? That doesn't help. Okay. Should a pop-up come here? What is the size of your team working on the CloudStack deployment and environment?
Okay, it's the same as I said, that the infrastructure is also small, the team is also small. So we have a 20-member team dedicated to the infrastructure side, where 3 or more people, 1 or 2 guys are the architect types, and the other 1 are more for the operations, so maintaining, taking the backups, or rotating the logs and switching the services kind of stuff. So it's a very small team as compared to the implementation that we have today.
Okay, thank you. Another question here. Any particular CloudStack features, functionalities that really helped you choose CloudStack over other offerings?
So the one thing which we loved about CloudStack was the implementation. So probably we started off with OpenStack. I'm sorry if no offenses there, but it was so complex for me to handle it out, so I thought that it's not going to work for us. So then we shifted, and we started deploying CloudStack, and we tried it off. We said, yeah, it looks easy, and we are able to install and configure it at one go. So we thought this is what we should do. And I had this instinct, yeah, let's not test it further, let's go and implement, and we did like that. And it really paid off. And this 5-7 years that we have been running, we had our own set of failures and the kind of, I mean, I call it adventure because you take those risks and get that system back up despite those failures. So yeah, it's been a very roller coaster ride, but obviously we've seen some major outages in a year, once or twice, but we've been able to run it thoroughly well now.
And are there any particular features that that you were looking for, or just you looking for the overall stack?
Yeah, yeah. Some of the areas were really it's maybe my noviceness that, or me being a novice on the storage design and all. So I probably feel that storage side is where we could not design it properly, or we choose the wrong hardware. So I think, yeah, when you design the storage, I think it's very important that you estimate and evaluate the storage machines that you're going to buy and the protocols or the technology that you're going to use it. So I've been exploring with partners right now, like the new stuff which is coming in for CloudStack in terms of the storage drivers and the storage devices. I think that's one area which should really be thought for before when you start designing. And I think, yeah, so whenever you do something, cost is something, yeah, it may be a problem, but if you do something, it is always a cluster that you should do. So these are some of my key takeaways here on the cloud side.
Thank you. Another one. There are some schemes which are run by Gov, and at that time, lots of people use CSC to so how do you handle those loads? And what if there's downtime, as schemes are time-bound?
Schemes are time-bound, yeah. Schemes are time-bound, and see, there are typical services. For example, if something which is, it's like on the mandate, like how you're going to implement that. So there are services which is onboarded directly to the CSC side that you run and execute the project. So such side we are totally responsible, but there are certain programs which are like distributed across the government also runs that. We also run on the front end, and they're also a majority of services are also available in person to you. You can avail them directly online. At the same time, we also run from our platform. So it's on an assisted format. So yeah, we have been fairly able to scale up to that extent that we are able to handle such a load. So yeah, it's working for us till now. So far, so good.
Great, thank you. And there's one more here. Is there a concept of known abuse that's a concern throughout all these users and villages and entrepreneurs and what have you? Is there a concern or any knowledge of abuse of the system in there?
Concern for the?
For any abuse of the system. Right.
Fraud, yeah. Okay, I missed you. Yeah, so we have got a fraud engine on the back end because I said that we thoroughly comply to a lot of statutory compliances in terms of the operations because we are running financial transactions. So we have to be very peculiar about AIML. That is one of the key stuff that we need to monitor. And then alongside, we also do velocity checks on the transaction sizes and the amount, volume transactions, and cyclic transactions. Some of them are thoroughly embedded into the design so that we are able to take care of such frauds.
Great, thank you. There's a couple more questions here. I'll just check. Is there anything else in the room before I carry on with the questions online? We've got a couple more minutes. Oh, thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. And you have been mentioning about the challenges that you have faced with on the implementation. Can you iterate some challenges what you have faced on the go when you're going with CloudStack?
The first one, which always gives me a nightmare, is whenever one storage goes down, the entire cloud goes for a reboot. And we've been trying to do a lot of fencing around to stop that thing to happen again and again. But every time, we have not been able to solve it thoroughly. So that is one thing which remains with me. I'll try to explore and learn here. And when I go back, I'm sure that we should be able to fix that. So that's the only thing that I have as a problem.
Thank you. Before I ask this last question from the online audience, anything else in the room? Going once? Okay, one more question then before we wrap up. Do you see in the future CloudStack being deployed and used by other government departments or entities?
I'm sure the use case that we have is thoroughly robust, and the community is actually growing. It's a very agile community, very, very vibrant, and a lot of people are using it already. And we see a lot of partners also coming in up in India. So the service partners who are able to provide support, which was thoroughly lacking. When I started, I never knew anybody around who was using CloudStack in India. And the only content that I could access was Shapedo. So thanks, Jazz, for writing so much content on the internet. So, that is where we started doing it, and that is how we learned up, and we did. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of implementation going in future. And yeah, of course, a lot of people are also moving into private cloud now because the financial transactions, the regulations that are coming in by the central bank and other regulations coming in by the government for operations, a lot of applications and systems in India. I'm sure that a lot of the enterprises are also going to go use this. And we are going to see that happen very soon. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, Abhishek, thank you very much.
Thank you.